How much of reality TV is real?
Almost all of it, in my experience. I can't speak for all shows. And here's the litmus test. The reason that you know reality TV, for the most part, is real is because all of the people that are on there are way too stupid to be able to act the things that you think that they're acting. What you think that Joanna, 18-year-old hairdresser from Wigan, is going to be, right, Joanna, thank you for that. We're just going to run it again, but can we get a little bit more emotion out of you this time? Dude, no. Like, no. That the people that are on there are there to just enact their life forward. Mm-hmm. They're not actors. They're not, I mean, maybe some of them are able to do like a little bit of turn it up, turn it down, do all the rest of it, but they're not contrived enough to be able to do that just on command, especially if it's a show like Love Island, which is every single night. I think it's 4 a.m. is the cutoff. The next day, the full 24 hours is condensed into 45 minutes of like 100 camera angles and stuff. So they would be able to every single day, like create some narrative and play some role. Like, no way.
Sure.
So for me, there's something called a villa producer, which will come in, and this will be the same on The Bachelor, it'll be the same on whatever. They'll come in and they'll say, we think it would be a bit more exciting. Let's say that me and you like Jack, right? And I fancy him and you fancy him. And we're like, the producer will come over and go, Chris, how do you feel about the fact that Graham's been chatting to Jack earlier on today? And you're like, I got to be honest, like it really pissed me off. I thought we were friends. I really thought that he liked me. You go, well, why don't you go and have a chat with him over by the fire pit? And you go, all right, yeah, cool. And over by the fire pit, there's a fucking ton of cameras set up and everyone's like ready to go. Yeah. So they're there poking because they can't wait 3 weeks for you to pluck up the courage to say like, will you hold my hand? They need it to happen now.
Yeah.
So they're like, they catalyze stories, but they don't fabricate stories. And the reason they don't fabricate stories is because people don't have the skill set to be able to be like, oh, and now I love fucking like Jonathan, and now I love like, and now I'm out of love with everyone. It's like you're just there doing the thing that you do.
But how do they get people to be so like confrontative? Because it seems like if they were to ask me that question,
very good selection process.
Really?
Yeah,
so they just purposely pick people that are gonna like on a dime, let's lose it.
Of course, yeah.
It seems like alcohol too, because I noticed on Netflix they all have those golden cups. And everyone, there's always alcohol in that. From what seems to be the moment they wake up until they go to bed.
So that'll help.
They're drinking all day long.
One of the things I really respected, and I got in a bit of trouble because I did this big podcast. The first ever one that I did that blew up 7 years ago was What It's Really Like to Live on Love Island. And this is when it was still a huge TV program. And I like opened the door behind the fact that we didn't ever know what time it was. They didn't give us watches and all the clocks inside of the villa were the wrong time. And when the sound guys came in to change your sound packs, they'd change their watches. And when you got in a car to go on location, they'd change the time. They never wanted you to know what the time was.
What?
Yeah, I think they wanted to control our sleep pattern more than...
it's like inside of a casino. They want you to just...
And there was a ton of other things, right? Just like little shit. But it was fun. Like, what's that? It's not malicious or it's whatever. But anyway, I did this thing. They weren't too happy about it. The alcohol thing is interesting because it catalyzes the story, which is exactly what they were looking to get done. But the problem is it causes everyone's behavior to kind of like gravitate toward the same type of stuff. It's always going to be Larry, fighting, aggressive, kind of sloppy. And what I respected about Love Island, despite the fact that I got them in a bit of trouble, was they limited everyone's alcohol to 2 drinks a day, which is like a noble thing to do because they could have given us more alcohol and had like more storylines, but it would have been, this is coming out the back of our equivalent of Jersey Shore. It's called Geordie Shore. That was where I was from. That was Newcastle. And they didn't want that. They didn't want people to be fighting and puking and pissing on the floor. They didn't want that. That didn't look fun to them. So they decided to make it a more like romantic Love Island, right? They wanted to make it a more mature kind of thing. And that was the same throughout. One problem that they didn't foresee is I don't smoke. So this isn't an issue for me. But a lot of people who do smoke, apparently, when they get in the sun, all that they want to do is just fucking rip darts all day. And one of the problems was, as with everywhere, you need to have a smoking area. You can't have people smoking all over for health and safety and fire hazard and all the rest of it. But it meant that like 50% of the scenes from my season were done in this one like 2 meter by 2 meter smoking area because like half of the guys were going through a 20 pack a day as they were smoking these cigarettes. But you also know if you are, I was 27 when I did it. Like if you're 27 full of testosterone and around a bunch of girls, all you want to do is like drink, right? Like you're there to party. But you're permanently being limited to 2 drinks a day, like 2 330 ml cans of stubby beer, which was just like, yeah, it agitated a lot of people in some ways. So, but it was fun. It was fun. And fewer people have been to the top of Everest than have been on Love Island.
Wow.
I'm not equating the two.
Okay.
But, there's not many things you can do that not many people have done.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. And I'm like,
Okay. At what point do you forget that there are cameras there? Because I hear a lot of people say that at first you're nervous that there's all these cameras, but then after like a day, you forget they're even there. And I see some of these shows and I think, why would you do that on camera?
Well, the whole point of reality TV is to make things feel naturalistic, right? So let's say that we were here and the pool's over there. They'll have like one of these light bulbs will actually be a camera, and there'll be a little CCTV sort of swivel thing like a security camera you'd have. And there'll be a couple of big booms, but the guy will be on one of those bazooka things, like you get at sports matches, where the guy like sits in it. It's like a fucking 50 cal machine gun.
Yeah.
There'll be that, and that'll be my shot, and then there'll be another one here, and there'll be some other stuff, and there'll be one inside of a bush. The whole point is to make it feel naturalistic, and people do forget.
Yeah.
And after a while, to be honest, you kind of just get Stockholm syndrome. You're like, well, this is life now. I don't remember what life was like without this, so I guess I'm just gonna crack on.
Was it weird for you finishing the show and going back to real life and seeing a clock and just looking around and like, no one's recording me?
The first couple of days was strange. Yeah. I think I was there. I'd had 1 week of media lockdown where I'd had that chaperone. I read Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, which this is a niche piece of advice. But if you're about to go on a reality TV show, do not read Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist before you go on, because you just end up in this like psychedelic fugue state. And because it's all about this guy and he's traveling through the fields of Spain, and I was in Spain and he's on his own and he's going on this journey of self-discovery. So I was just thinking to myself the entire time that I was there, like, it's just like me, like I'm doing this there, like that was me. It was strange coming out. Thankfully, and I say this with all honesty, I gained 5,000 followers being on that show. So it was nothing, right? It was like a fully paid broadcasted dress rehearsal to what the rest of the seasons were going to be like. Season 2 was 10 times bigger. Season 3 was 10 times bigger than that. Season 4 was 10 times bigger than that. Now it's kind of plateaued out. But it meant that I was very quickly able to go back to my life. Helped the club business a bit. Like people came down to see me. You often get bookings of reality TV stars at nightclubs, and we basically had one every night of the week for free, which was me, which is great. But I was very quickly able to go back to my normal life, which I appreciate, because we lost a deal for the podcast with a large airline that was going to host our episodes so that people could watch them. And in the final meeting, the final pitch meeting, one of the main execs came in and Googled my name. And one of the things that will come up if you go sufficiently far down, or it might be a suggested thing on Google, will be Love Island. And he put that in and immediately said, why would I want to put the podcast of somebody that's been on Love Island on as like a philosophical, psychological insight? And that killed the deal. So
wow.
Like just that one thing has been like, I'm still wiping some of the reality TV slime off me in some ways, because like at the time when you're 27, it's cool, but there's also a degree of cringe and you can't kind of quite project where that's going to be.